First of all, I'd like to welcome you all here to the 2014 Hermosa Beach Surfers Walk of Fame induction. What a great group we have today. And this looks like one of the biggest crowds we've ever had. And I want to thank you all for coming. First, we have some introductions we have to do very quickly. We have Councilman Pete Tucker from the Grand City of Hermosa Beach. Pete, where are you? Next, we have some ladies that this would not be possible if they didn't help us. In the Community Resources Department, Diane Strickfaden, she's in the back there, the black shirt. She's the boss, and she makes this happen. But without these next two ladies, we wouldn't even know about Mindy Brown and Lisa Nichols. You do not believe the amount of effort and time they put into this. They do a tremendous job, and they have since day one. And we really couldn't have it without Lisa and Mindy. Really want to thank them. With that, we will get started. My name's John Joseph, and firstly, what I want to do is all the inductees, former inductees, please stand up, and we'll introduce you one by one. You're probably sitting right next to a legend somewhere and don't even know it. So can I get you guys to stand up and raise your hands?
All of them?
I'm just going to go right around the room here. Okay, right here in the black, we have Ben Kirkland. Henry Ford here in the pink shirt. The big good-looking guy in the blue, Donald Craig. We have Whitney Gill back here in sort of the tan shirt under the tent. Right next to him is Warren Miller, an inductee today. Farther down in the black tab of the white shirt, F. Ike. Right behind Whitney, we have Chris Bredesen.
Yeah!
Sonny Bartleman in the green shirt. Daryl Dickey.
Yeah!
Let's see, Derek Levy in the back with a hat, with the Australian hat. Mark Levy. Derek will be up here sometime. Mark Levy. Let's see, next to him, Tom Fox. Tom Rice. And we have Beecher right here, and right next to him, we have Hap Jacobs.
Yay!
We have someone that probably had the dream job for all of us, head lifeguard at Malibu Beach for decades, John Baker in the yellow shirt. There's more of you there. Who might miss? Paul Bergstrom right here in the black. Just stand out. Anybody on the sides anywhere? Okay. Did I miss anybody? Speak up, please. These are inductees that will be around all day. We hope you get a chance to meet them and introduce yourself. We're going to get started right now. Our first inductee has influenced so many people as a lifeguard and a surfer and an innovator. John McFarland. And presenting John McFarland will be, first up, Hap Jacobs. Hap, come on up.
Hey, get up there. Hey, this is a first.
Cole's got it, cool.
Hey, John, you don't know how lucky you are.
You guys are making history here. He does not get to mine very often.
Come on, Hap. Yeah.
Yay!
Well, I'm really glad to see John in here today and Sparky. Both of them really deserve it. John, I've known John for a long time. Since we were teenagers in high school. We both went to Redondo. We played on the basketball team there. Had a lot of fun. But in those days, surfing really wasn't the thing. You know, people would come up and say, well, what'd you do this weekend? Why did you go surfing? You went surfing. It just kind of the only place they were surfing was here at the pier and Manhattan Pier and a little bit along the beach and not very many people. But we did a lot of fishing on the pier. And we did fishing on the sport boats, and we had a lot of fun around the pier right here at Hermosa. Probably 7 or 8 of us out there fishing and causing a lot of trouble. And we were fly lining for bonita and catch big barracuda and stuff, and we got tangled up with everybody on the pier, and pretty soon they get tired of that, and they call the police department and get Harry the plainclothes cop out here, and he would cast over our lines with a big treble hook and get them all and cut them off and say, well, that'll keep you for a while. That was when monofilament came out, and it was really expensive when we kept looking at our reels and it was getting smaller and smaller. So anyway, we had a lot of fun with that, and we go to Redondo Pier now and then we started surfing. We were kind of around the pier, but they gave us trouble there too. So Kelsey was the youngest guy there. He was kind of a territorial guy. So anyway, we ended up down the beach a ways and a few times at Torrance, and we kind of started at the cove. But as time went along, we spent more time surfing, and we all, in the early 50s it was, I think a lot of us decided, well, we're going to go to Hawaii. And I was lucky there, and a lot of the guys from Hermosa were there. John was there for a few months, and I think we came back about the same time. But we really had a good time there. That was the best time because there weren't a lot of people surfing, just a few of the locals out there, and you could get along with everybody, and there weren't any problems. But that all changed later. But anyway, we just started hanging around 22nd Street. Now that was a lot of fun. And we had stuff down there now that you couldn't even think about doing today. Like we had a couple of small catamarans on the beach, and we had a kind of a shack built there with palm leaves on the top. You could put your boards up there and get out of the sun. And then on certain days, on Sunday, we had Bergen, the beach captain, we had a portable bar we could carry out on the beach, and a keg of beer, and it was amazing. But we all had a good time there, and I've known John for a long time, and I kind of thought he'd be inducted in a long time ago in here, one of the charter members, but I'm sure glad he's here today. And, we had a great time at 22nd Street, and everybody hung out there. That was right in front of Bob Bergstrom's house, and Bergie was the beach captain. And besides, and they had a volleyball court there too, so a lot of the guys played volleyball. But there was always something to eat. Bergen had a nice little hamburger spot there with cheeseburgers and stuff like that. And we'd go up there and hang out. That was right at 22nd Street. And there's always the green store. They always had a big supply of Twinkies, so that was about our life. It was a great time. Thanks.
Thank you, Hap Jacobs. Our next presenter for John McFarland is the longtime LA County lifeguard captain, Wally Milliken. Wally, come on up. Right behind.
Well, it's really something to be behind Hap Jacobs as a speaker. I really am privileged to be here speaking for John McFarland. John and I communicated over the telephone a little bit to try to get an idea of what to present in terms of his life. And he pretty much told me all he ever wanted to do was really just surf. And he was a rabid surfer when I knew him, and unfortunately he had a shoulder injury that cut his surfing and his dream to have a house on the beach or near the beach so he could go in the water every day cut short. So we were sad to see that happen. But John started working here as a lifeguard about in this position right here in the old Hermosa headquarters. He was working with Billy and Bobby Maestro on the tall car for a couple of years and had a lot of experiences there, and then he decided he'd go out to the beach and work in the sand and make rescues like all the other guys, and so he moved to Torrance, meaning moved and transferred in his position to Torrance. And he was down there for 8 years. He had a lot of friends down there, a lot of great crews that worked with him, and the surf in those days was absolutely terrific down there. So everybody enjoyed John being the guard in charge down there, and I believe, if I'm not incorrect, John, that's where you met Susie, his wife.
Correct.
So anyhow, shortly thereafter, Dwight came down to him and said, I think it's important that you become a captain now, or a lieutenant, John, and I'd like to have you move into CCO, which is Clifton County beach and be in charge of that and be in charge of Redondo County, Clifton County, and Torrance. And he did that for a few years, and then somebody else came to him and said, no, we want you to be a captain. And that was a promotion to Santa Monica, if my memory serves me correctly. I went with him to Santa Monica, and we spent a couple of years there, and he went on to lifeguard division and finished his career in that divisional position there, I believe, as a, what was the title, John, on that?
Assistant chief.
Assistant chief, which was none less than the top rung. And the only reason he didn't get the top rung is he wanted to go back to the beach and go home. So that's what he did. He holds a business major from SC. He's very proud of SC. If any of you know and watch him during a football game, you probably are a rarity because he likes to watch him by himself and think about what's going on. He loves that school. He and I have shared a lot of similar loves throughout our lives, and one of the major things has been his love of fishing. We've owned several different vessels, small little skiffs, and we finally worked it up to what we called the gray skiff, which is owned now by Joe Bark, and we fished for 10 years on that boat every Monday and drifted every square inch of this Santa Monica Bay, and had many misadventures and great times together. And we talked about everything under the earth or under the sun, and you know how John and I can talk, so I was covering just about every subject. One of the interesting things I think about, or neat things about the surfing community, is the fact that we all know one another pretty well. These cities were small and didn't have a lot of people in them when we first started, and so if you saw a guy in the water, you knew who he was. And a lot of them had really terrific nicknames, and one of my favorite is a friend of John's that he went to the islands with in '54 the first time with Bob Bergen and himself, and his name was Tweet Tweet, and that was a name given to him by Belzy the Hawk, who gained his nickname from Tommy Rice, who witnessed him spot a diamond ring in the shore break from the pier on his bicycle, and pointed it out to Tommy and said, "Tom, it's right over there." And he says, "What do you mean?" And he says, "It's right there." And he points to it, and Rice goes into the water, into the trough, and picks up the diamond ring, and the lady was just thrilled to death that she got her ring back. Obviously, we know Dewey, the little man on wheels. We have Sam Harwood, we called him Skipper Fats. The Bull, Greg Knoll. The Cat, the Dark Knight, we all know who he is. And finally, there was a special favorite of mine. We call him Back Out Billy, Billy Robinson. What I'm leading to is we ended up with a name for John McFarland, and his name turned out to be as a handle for the rest of his life is Perfect Merc, and that goes in many different situations. But basically, he had the most beautiful black 48 Mercury convertible with a Carson top and all perfect chrome on the car, and he was well noted for that car when he would drive through town with the convertible, and everybody would say, "There he goes, the perfect Merc." He had many other iconic cars. He had a 39 Ford wagon, wood wagon, 55 Chevy blue and white Nomad, and finally he had Henry's 65 two-door Chevy station wagon, which there was probably about 17 of them ever produced, and if you could ever get one with two doors, it was a real coup. So anyhow, John's been around here for a long time, like a lot of us, and he's grown up with all the things that we do, and fishing, surfing, and everything that's associated with the beach. And John is really, that's all he's ever wanted to do, is be like the guys that really get to enjoy the beach. I have a letter here from somebody that you might recognize. I'll read it for you. This is care of me. It says, says, "Hi, Wally. I hear they are inducting John McFarland into the Hermosa Walk of Fame. Good news, huh? He was truly one of the South Bay's classic guys. Good surfer, good fisherman, great all-around waterman, and best lifeguard captain I ever worked for on the beach. I still can remember during dinging the rescue truck when he asked me to put it in the garage. Anybody else, and it would have been a big deal, but having to explain to John was really painful. He was very calm, patient, and rightfully made me feel about 2 inches tall. He was really good at working with people and was one of the most admired lifeguards that I can remember. If I don't make it down for this ceremony, please congratulate John for me, your pal, Greg Knoll." Thank you very much for all coming, okay?
Thank you, Wally Milliken. Many of you may not know him from the old days, but he's one of the top surfers from this area in the late 50s and 60s. I can remember growing up watching him at the Manhattan Pier, and he was just amazing. It's good to see he was a surfer back in those days. Next we have coming up is a 2004 inductee, someone I had the honor of going in the same class with, 1hr9min. Sonny.
Thanks, John. I first met John McFarland in the early 50s. Our group surfed down here on 17th Street. We were known as the Hermosa Beach Surfing Seals. Our ages were about 14 and 15. John's group was up at 21st Street in front of Bob Bergstrom's home. And as Hap alluded to, it was a classic Hawaiian village setup. Anyway, we would surf with them all the time out there, and got to know them pretty well. And we would go down and kind of hang out on the fringes of this Hawaiian village. Like Hap said, they had a Hawaiian palm leaf shack out there with catamarans, and they'd play the Hawaiian music. And they would talk stories of some of the trips they've had to the islands. Beecher, Bergen, John, Hap, all of them, and we would really be inspired by all that. On occasions, we would get to hop a ride on one of the catamarans, pushing out through the surf, and then sometimes we'd be invited to the Cove to surf, and Malibu, and on special occasions, even a trip down to the Trestle, which was really special in those days. Later on, we were all surfing Belsey surfboards at the time, and Belsey had a shop at the Manhattan Beach Pier. So we would kind of hang out down there, and we'd run into John and some of his buddies, and the stories about Hawaii continued. By 1955, in fact it was early spring 55, John told us about the upcoming lifeguard exam, gave us some pointers on training, described the course to us, 1,000 meter ocean swim. And so we took it that March, and we all passed. Bing, Rick, Mike Bright, a whole bunch of us. And John said that it would be a great opportunity to save some money for a trip to Hawaii. So we were ready. And at the end of the summer, we planned our trip. John said he would join us a few weeks later, which he did. We flew into Honolulu on a 12-hour flight out of Burbank. Remember that, Bing? I think we had to stop in San Francisco to get gas to make it. But it wasn't too bad. I mean, they gave us a box of lunch after 12 hours. Anyway, we arrived in Honolulu and bought an old car, made our way out to Makaha. We rented a Quonset hut out at the point. And a couple of weeks later, John joined us, and we started surfing and really having a good time there. And John told us about how to prepare ourselves when big swells showed up. Well, early one morning in about the 1st of October, the ground started to shake, the Quonset hut rattling, the big swell that hit, we were ready. We followed John down to the beach. He launched his board, negotiated the big shore break, and out we went. And way out on the point, there were two surfers, George Downey and Buzzy Tourette. And John introduced us to them, and we watched them launch themselves into the waves, and we were really getting excited. And there we go, launching ourselves down these big faces of 15 to 20 foot wave. And it was very exciting. We were a little shaky at first, but eventually we did pretty good that day and that whole season. After 3 months of surfing over there, we occasionally made a trip to the Sunset Beach and surfed Haleiwa and Sunset. Big remembers those days. And then we all went active into the military, or most of us did. John returned home to his lifeguarding career. And in the mid-60s, he joined the U.S. Surfing Association Senior Division Surfing Tour, highlighted in 1966 with the U.S. Open in Huntington Beach. Throughout his career, he achieved a lot of things. He was involved in surf control systems up and down the beach with flags in the back, black ball, and all-day surfing areas. And competed in several paddling races, and was on the winning teams a couple of times. John McFarland was truly one of the first big wave riders from Hermosa Beach. He certainly earned that designation. And today, like a lot of retired surfers, John only dreams of the great days of the past and talks story of the golden years. Congratulations, John McFarland, on your induction today.
Thank you, Sonny Bartleman. It's with great pleasure and long overdue, I want to welcome John McFarland to the 2014 class Hermosa Beach Surfers Walk of Fame. John, come on up. I'll tell you, one of the greatest experiences of my life. In the late 70s and early 80s, I lived next door to John and Susan on 8th Street, and both my sons were born while we were living there, and I had the opportunity to surf with him for almost every day for several years, and it's something I'll never forget. One of the most deserving people ever inducted here, and a very good friend of mine. John?
Yeah.
Thanks, John, and all the previous speakers. They really, there was a little bit of propaganda involved in some of those comments, but I feel like I should run for political office right now. God, what a wonderful, wonderful event, and dear friends, and there's a camaraderie that involves surfing. You can't explain it, and I'll tell you one quick little vignette. I was in a fraternity at SC, and every April we have a reunion in Newport at the yacht club. And I think half the people in Newport went to SC. And, there was one guy, Herb Elke, I think Warnie Miller, you probably remember Herbie. His passion was San Onofre. He had a big old plank, and he was the only other person in my fraternity that surfed. And at one of the reunions, I'd been, as Sonny or Wally previously mentioned, my life, you know, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I didn't, every vacation, and I'd save all my time, all my overtime, all my holidays, and every winter, I would take off for Hawaii until it got too crowded, and then Mexico, Costa Rica, and it was 6 weeks. And I loved every second of it. And I kept doing that. And every time I went to a reunion, a fraternity brother would be sitting at a big table, and there was about 35 or 40 of us at each reunion. they'd say, John, what have you been doing? And they'd been talking about Europe and trips to Tahiti or wherever, and I'd say, oh, I went to Mazatlan with Stu Linder for 6 weeks, and they said, God, every year you go surfing, for God's sake. I mean, you're in a rut, man. And I looked over at Herbie. Just fortunately, Herbie Elke was at our table. I looked over, and I knew, you can't explain it. I looked at her, and he was smiling and nodding like this, saying, John, I get it. They don't get it. And that's it in a nutshell. It's so precious. Those memories, the camaraderie, like Sonny was saying, like that year in the 6 weeks I was at the Quonset hut with those guys. And, oh my God, the memories, it's just so special. And I always get lured into the poetic description of it. It was magical. It really was. And one of my closest surfing friends was a fellow I went all through high school with, Don Anderson. Just about everybody here knew Andy. He used the GI Bill. We both got very fortunate. Mr. Waller, who was the first principal at Maricosta, was VP at Redondo. And I saw him the summer I graduated, and he said, what are you going to do? And I said, oh, I don't, I'm not driven. Eddie Miller's going to dental school at SC, and a couple of guys are going to Cal and engineering. And I said, I don't have that push yet. And he says, I'll tell you what you should do. You should go in an armed service. The GI Bill is still active. You've got about 6 weeks before they cancel it. You'll get 4 years of college, all paid, and $85 a month. Well, $85 a month today would be almost $1,000. So I was thinking, my God, I can go to SC, my dream school. And so Andy went in the Navy. I wanted to jump out of airplanes, so I joined the Army, volunteered for Airborne, spent a year in Japan. And it turned out to be fantastic. I got to see Japan. I got to jump like I'd always dreamed about doing. Got out, started SC in the fall. But the real, just a life-changing thing was all the guys I went to high school suddenly were being drafted. Billy Maestro, people like that. Bobby didn't get drafted. He'd already married Patty. And those guys went to Korea. I had one friend, Don Fielder, who I went all through elementary school, junior high, Redondo, and Don didn't come back. And here I was, going to SC, going to fraternity parties, all because of Lloyd Waller, telling me, go in the service, get the GI Bill, go to school. And I had the same, what they call MOS number on my discharge for a guy that hit the beaches at Normandy, fought in Guadalcanal. I mean, I really felt kind of guilty, to tell you the truth. Especially when you have a friend die. Another friend, Don Arnett, who later would become the city manager of Santa Monica. He came back with a Bronze Star and really had been wounded badly. And I just shook my head. And every time I saw Lloyd Waller, because I was going with a girl that was a PE teacher at Maricosta, and politically, for her reasons, she said, I really should go to the football games on Friday night. And Lloyd was always there. And I'd look at, he would catch eyes, and I'd smile and say, thanks, Lloyd. And he knew exactly what I was talking about. Because he's the one that said, be smart, go in the service. But I don't want to get into the surfing thing because the sun will go down before I finish. I spent, Wally mentioned those years, it was 10 years at Torrance Beach, and in those days, Torrance Beach was a hotbed for surfing. And there they are, the Haggertys guys. Oh, good guys. There's only one of them I ever had to kick off the beach. And you talk about a contrast, there were the Irons brothers. Ricky was so smooth, and not shading it, he was the best surfer that I ever saw come out of Torrance Beach. Ricky Irons was the Phil Edwards of the South Bend, let's put it that way. And Jimmy Irons, redhead, totally different. Feisty, God, he was so aggressive, and he was always on the edge, and a couple of times I had to say, Jimmy, I don't want to see you for a week. And because he'd surf into the to the swimming area, and he was just a hothead. I'm sure he's mellowed out now, though. Sorry, Jim. But Ricky was something special, and I'm only going to tell one surfing story. I have to do it. I went down early because the swell was really good. I'd called Leroy Granis. Leroy said, "If the swell's good, John, damn it." He only lived right up here on Monterey. He'd come down, set up his tripod, and shoot pigs. And Rick was in the water, and there was probably a representative of all the surf teams: Hap, Bing, Rick, Dewey. I mean, there were just, I was looking at guys that were just ripping. And the Grimmies would get out of the water to watch their idols. These kids are 12, 13 years old. And there was a fence going south from the guard station. They'd sit on the middle rung, put their elbows up at the top rung, put their chins on and just stare at their heroes. And of course, Rick was number one. But Steve Dabney, John Kemper, Lenny Whittemore, I could go on and on. Bruce Woods. I mean, these guys ripped. Lonnie Argerbright, shit, Ronnie's shit. And but Rick was it. And I hear one of the Grimmies say, "Hey, Rick's taking off." And you look, and here's Rick with that graceful style, carves a backside turn, just starts gliding towards the nose, and he catches an inside rail. Well, Rick was so smooth, he knew he was finished. And instead of fighting it, he would just put his hands on his chest and fold into the curl and just get up and go get his board. You know, just everything was smooth. And there was just total silence with these Grimmies. And this one little kid just says, "God, he even falls off bitchin'." And I'll say adieu with that. A special thanks first to the committee for getting me here. The mention has been made that I wasn't here before. I really didn't feel I belonged here. You know, I thought I was surfing like, I went to the trestle every week from mid-June to mid-September with several friends, Toby Erlinger, Freddie London, Walt Hitz, and we surfed our brains loose at the trestles. And I watched Phil Edwards, Hobie, Rennie Yater. It was never crowded. I studied Phil Edwards, and I thought, I had every move, and I really thought in my mind I was surfing like Phil Edwards. And then Bud Brown, not Bruce, Bud Brown, started building surfing movies, and he took a bunch of pictures, movies, and I saw the rough cuts. He invited us all down. He was preparing his first film to show in a theater, and I looked at myself and I went, "Oh my God, oh my God, I'm a kook." I mean, and I was devastated. And I said, then I realized, you know, we're all dictated. You can't, you know, a lot of guys play baseball. They can't be Mickey Mouse. And I couldn't be Ricky Arns. So I was just content, and nobody loved it more. And I'm happy to be here. And it wasn't on skill. I think it was more on love. The love for the sport. Once again, and a special thanks to oh my God, I'm running out of gas here. Chris Miller. Chris Miller has worked so hard, you know, kind of helping with this thing, but she's put a film together that we saw at the Pure Avenue School Auditorium last night. I still call it Pure Avenue, the community center, whatever. Yeah. But and the surfing museum up there. But this film she's put together, and I'm sure they're going to show it every year. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, you talk about a walk down memory lane of the surfing world. My God, I was in awe. So hats off, Chris, fantastic. And with that, I'll say aloha. And thanks for the memories.
Thank you, John McFarland. We have a couple things to present. First of all, we have a photo from John, 1961, in the Torrance Beach Lifeguard Tower. And if you look at it, it looks like he's asleep. Overlook it. John, here you go. And now the mayor has arrived. Mayor Michael DiVirgilio will be here to present his plaque. copy of this will be on the pier. Those of you that have not walked about 50 yards past the gate, all the plaques of all the inductees are there. It's quite a sight with some true legends up there. I hope you get an opportunity to go up there and look at it today sometime. Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry. I was really a blundering fool. I've got to mention the work that Susan, my wife, put into this, and I think Chris can allude to that. You think these things, when you're here, they seem relatively simple. My God, she was on her computer, she was on the telephone, and I can't believe how hard she worked to make me, and it's hard to make me look good anymore. So, but anyway, Susan did a hell of a job.
Come out and we just said, John Merck. I love that nickname, Perfect Merck. I mean, that is just, as a politician, I think that would be a great one to have. Let me just quickly say, I think he hit the nail on the head. He was quoted saying something very similar in the Daily Breeze yesterday. And I'm so glad that you recognize what this award is really about. Because your presence here, you being here, you giving up all of the self-doubt you may have had about it, is what this is about. It is an opportunity for all of us. This whole crowd that you and I can see standing here all the way back through the plaza is how we get to celebrate the greatness that surfing is and what it means to not only this community but the world. And so thank you very much, John. And on behalf of my colleagues, this entire community, the entire surf community, it is my pleasure to share this plaque with you, the same plaque that's going to be on the pier, as John mentioned.
Yeah! Thank you so much. It's all true. But
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John McFarland. I would be remiss if I didn't introduce a late arrival. You saw something that you very seldom see. Hap Jacobs at a microphone. And something I've never seen until today. Mike Purpose arriving late for a photo shoot. Mike Purpose. Thank you, Michael. I am really pleased to induct Sparky today. Something you may not know, and we are very lucky that either one of us are still here. We lived together on Maui for a while, and we were lucky that we only been together a couple months, and we wouldn't have survived. But my former roommate, someone that really deserves it, one of the best surfers, pier surfers ever from the original Surf City, Hermosa Beach. First to present him will be Donald Craig, an inductee here on the pier. Donald?
Sparky was born in Santa Monica in 1947. Shortly thereafter moved to 17th Street in Hermosa. He started surfing at age 12 and immediately fell and injured himself. He hated it. A couple of years later, Sparky's dad made his first surfboard for him, and it weighed about 50 pounds. He took it out surfing, and the first time out, he broke the fin off. He was devastated. His dad saved the day and fixed the fin, and Sparky was back in the water in no time. After he'd learned to surf and his dad could see how stoked he was, they went down and bought a brand new Bing surfboard. Cash. In the early days, Sparky and I would trade surf decals and surf posters, and we picked up from all the local surf shops. We were both starting our surf collections of surf memorabilia, which over the years has grown to be quite large. And Sparky's seen mine; it's big. we'd go down to 22nd Street and hang out with all the older guys like Pat Fike and Henry Ford and Ricky Hatch, Tim Kelly, guys like Chip Post and Roy Bream. Some of those guys are here today. And we'd watch them surf. Leroy Grandis lived right up the hill, as John said. And he'd come down and shoot photos of these guys for the then startup Surfer magazine. Sparky and I'd watch these guys surf and moves, and we tried to emulate them the next time we went out surfing. Being surrounded by all the best surfboard manufacturers at that time and all the best surfers, we knew we lived in Surf City. It was. About the time Sparky turned 14, a guy named Mike O'Neill moved into the apartment behind his house. Mike worked for Hap Jacobs as a salesman at the shop. Sparky hung out around Mike and eventually convinced him that he should be on the Jacobs surf team. At that time, Mike Purpose, myself, Sparky, and a guy named Mark Roberts were all surfing together on a regular basis. Sparky was a member of many surf clubs, starting with the South Bay Surfers, Dapper Dans, Bay City Surf Club, Wind and Sea, and finally the Long Beach Surf Club. He competed in a bunch of events up and down the California coast, and these were his following results. He got 4th place at the Santa Monica Juniors in 1964, 5th place at San Clemente in 1964, 6th place in Pacific Beach in 64. He got 1st place in the Los Angeles Surf Championships in 66, 5th place in Redondo Beach at 66, and 4th place at Zuma Beach in 66. In 1967, after he'd won all this stardom, he decided to leave Hermosa and fly to Australia. He made it as far as Maui and decided that's where he would hone his surfing skills. He loved Maui and the uncrowded spots and great waves. He surfed spots like Mala Wharf and Honolulu Bay. Back then, those were pretty exotic. You only saw them in the magazines and once in a while in a surf movie. He lived there for 17 years, then moved over to Oahu for better work opportunities. He still lives on Oahu today in Kaneohe. He has a wife, Linda, and a daughter, Lana, who attends the University of Hawaii. He's very proud of Lana. She's picked up the surfing stoke and makes Sparky go surfing and stand-up paddling with her whenever they get a chance. He loves living in the warm climate and is adjusted to the Hawaiian lifestyle, always emitting the spirit of aloha. Sparky also has a number of cool. He also had a number of cool shots in Surfer magazine in the mid-'60s. A lot of them taken by Leroy Grandis. Sparky was also featured in a number of clothing ads as the surf industry was just starting to grow. Hap Jacobs used him in 4 ads, which at that time was very prestigious. To be in any of Hap's or Bing's or Dewey's ads, that was like you were a hero. Sparky's claim to fame was the all-time classic shot captured by Leroy Grandis of him hanging 10 right out here in the shore break at Hermosa. He's the only guy I know that has a set of plates with a picture of him hanging 10 on it. Leroy sold that to him. Sparky and I have been lifelong friends. I talk to him regularly and exchange bad emails from time to time. His love of life and friendship we have will be cherished until our ashes are sprinkled in the ocean. It's an honor for me to see Sparky inducted into the Hermosa Beach Surfers Walk of Fame. He's now surrounded by all the guys he grew up with and competed against. Congratulations, Sparky.
Thank you, Don Craig. Next, we have the infamous Henry Ford. Henry.
Don really did his homework. My speech will be very short because he's covered everything. I'm going to have to edit the thing. But first of all, I want to thank everybody who came here today. I want to thank the city of Hermosa Beach for really opening up the Walk of Fame to the new pioneers that we've honored today. And just to thank them for creating this wonderful way of showing the history of surfing and the legends from here. When Sparky called me and asked me to say a few words to introduce him and say a few words on his behalf, I felt touched, I felt honored, and I was horrified at the same time because my love of talking, most of you know I talk a lot, but talking in front of a crowd scares the holy shit out of me, excuse my French. growing up in Hermosa during these early days of surfing, which I call the golden years, all of us knew each other, all the local surfers, the older guys, and so many of the younger guys. And Sparky was one of the young 17-year-old kids at this time that just started to shine. His dad bought him a Bing. Well, we put him on the Jacobs team immediately. I mean, he was that good. So, with his dad's support and his new Jacobs surfboard and his new team jacket, Sparky went on to create some great surfing. At this time, I was privileged to serve, as a manager of the famous Jacobs surf team. I was also president of the Windansea Surf Club at this time. And Sparky was probably one of the more valued members of both of these organizations that comprised so many of surfing's elite at this time. The best surfers in the world were a part of Windansea, the best surfers in the world were part of the Hermosa history, and the best surfers in the world were part of this whole thing. I really got to know Sparky during this time. This is when I got to see him surf every day practically and come down towards 22nd Street. And getting to know Sparky was a friend, was really nice, but he was also one of the hottest talents on the beach. I mean, he would go in the water and we'd all say, "Who's the young kid?" And he would light it up. I can say without question that he was one of the best surfers during this era, and he was one of the best surfers up and down the coast. Wherever we would go, he would make a shine. He would shine that day. At this time, contests were being held, and Don quoted so many of them, but Sparky competed in many of them. He won a few and placed very high in hundreds of them. Surfer Magazine was featured some of the ads from the Jacobs things, and Sparky was part of those ads, and he was also part of a number of other ads that were from other startup companies. As a member of the Windansea Surf Club, he was also a standout as a surfer and as a member, chipping in at all times. It's easy for me to say that Sparky Hudson was one of the most creative surfers of this era. He helped surfing into a new era, an era of hot dog surfing, where people were doing things that, are now just reveled about. The picture that Leroy took of him, I was talking to Steve Pesman the other day, he still says that it was one of the greatest nose riding photos ever put in the magazine. I truly feel that Sparky was one of these best surfers that certainly deserves to be honored here today. He was one of the best surfers during these golden eras, and up and down this beach, we're all so proud to have been here in Hermosa Beach. I mean, so many great things happened here. I'm so happy to see that the city recognizes that this history here in Hermosa Beach is beyond reproach. This should have been Surf City, not Huntington Beach. This stretch of beach here is one of the greatest stretches of beaches that have some of the greatest surfers ever put on this planet. My friendship with Sparky has lasted over 40 years, and I consider him as one of my best friends, and I'm proud to congratulate him, and it's an honor for him to be inducted here today on the Surfers Walk of Fame. We should all be proud of all of the legends and of Sparky today. We should thank the city again for putting this together. Thank you. Welcome, Sparky.
Well said, Deputy Ford. Now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Sparky Hudson. Come on up, Sparky.
I don't know whether to cry or run. What the hell were they talking about? First of all, I'd like to thank Chris Miller for that great film last night. It made me think. Without any past, there's no present. Seeing all these old people that always, no, not old, they're old people, but seeing all the history of Hermosa. Whenever they mention Hermosa, it's definitely the surf city. You know, Huntington, Santa Cruz, they fought over Surf City. Hermosa's so cool, you don't even need to bother because I know. When I was just a little kid, right over here to the right, used to be the aquarium. Over here, my dad took me to my first surf movie. I think it was Spinning Boards or something. One of my first jobs was a beach broiler here. I lasted 2 hours. I washed dishes and didn't know you had to change the water when you did the pots and pans. So I kind of went up the ladder and got a job selling newspapers at the end of Pier Avenue here. And if you look in a lot of the old photos, you'll see that little paper. This used to be my old stomping grounds. I guess now they call it the Hood. But the first person I met in Hermosa was Charlie Quisnell. And I feel proud because Charlie and my good friend Jimmy Lewis, Charlie's wife, came all the way from Maui for this site. And I'm stoked. And last night I was kind of amazed because I didn't know this was just kind of a big thing. I'm not into talking in front of people. I'm a country bumpkin on the island of Oahu. I'm kind of like Lance Carson over there hiding. I don't dig this stuff. Well, when I was a little kid, Charlie, Don Craig, Purpose, where'd he go? There he is. We were little hot little shits, you know, in our Jacob surf team jackets, running around, running amok. And I was kind of a troublemaker, but, you know, people grow up. Charlie Quisnell and I had a job at the surfboarder on 22nd Street. It was always Charlie's fault. I never threw that ice. Or broke that window. I'm just so happy to be here, to see Hap, see old friends. I saw LJ and his wife and Diane Takayama, and I don't even know. I haven't even seen that surf museum. I tried last night about 10 times. I couldn't get more than 10 feet. Seeing John Baker. When growing up, there was little groups of streets. 5th Street was Wilkins. I think he's hiding over there. And there was John Baker, Mike Stevenson, Alfred Laws. 2nd Street was the old guys, John Joseph, John Teague. 19th Street was Don Craig, myself, and Purpose. We had names for our little spots. The drain pipe, 16th Street, was called Draina Point. 17th Street was Hudson's Hollows. Then there was Roberts Reef, and then Purpose's Pipeline. We graduated to 22nd Street where our heroes were. And we would sit and watch and surf. And as we got a little older and things got better, we had Bay City Surf Club. And people started jumping around from surfboard manufacturers to surf clubs. I went to Windansea, then Long Beach, then back to Bay Cities. People were jumping from Jacobs to Bing. Jacobs Hap put up with my crap for so long, I couldn't leave Hap because he was so supportive of me and everything I did. He gave me a repair job. He tried to teach me how to shave. I was too lazy. I didn't want to shave. He tried all kinds of things, but I hung with Hap. It's so great to see Hap and Pat here. And I'm in Beecher Anderson. He was my next door neighbor on 17th Street. And each street had so many, a lot of the people on here, chip posts. And last night I met someone, shit, I can't remember her name. But I mean, there was so much history here in Hermosa. And I'm just thrilled to be a part of it. And I want to thank whoever voted and everybody for being here. And I'm nervous as hell. And thank you very much.
Once again, Mr. Mayor.
Sparky, you and Henry, I think, nailed it. some people fight for credit, other people earn it, and I think you, your colleagues, all the other folks that are in the audience and on this Walk of Fame earn the credit that Hermosa is a place where surfing is surfing. So thank you very much. On behalf of my colleagues, on behalf of the whole city, I'd like to present this plaque to you. It's an example of what will be on the pier. Thank you very much.
Be careful, Sparky. Get your hand in his pocket.
And what Don said, it isn't.
Before we get on to our next presentation with the Pioneer Surfers, with Chris Miller and a terrific job she's done on that. It's amazing some of the people are here. There are some of the greatest surfers in the world that are here today. They mentioned Lance and people like that, but I really would be remiss if I didn't mention former world champion Peter Townend is here. Legendary Huntington Beach, even though they try to call it Surf City, Chuck Lennon. And in the back, you hear 3 or 4 names in the history of surfing, the nicest guys in surfing. You hear Daryl Dickey, Hap Jacobs, and never, you do not hear, LJ Richards is here somewhere. LJ, thank you for coming up. Motion sign. With that, Chris, you're on. So the Pioneers, these are the guys that started it all.
Okay, so I am nervous as well, but the perfect thing is I left my speech at the kitchen table. That'll save a lot of time. I don't know how I'm going to put into words what these pioneers did for us. You have to take yourself back. When there were no boards, all these pioneers built their own. Each and every one of them, I found out, built their first surfboard. Some in garages, some in their shops, their wood shops. They found plans, they worked together, and I know Fenton, we have his handmade board in the museum right now. And when they started surfing, they were it. They were the only surfers there were. There was nowhere to go, and they found places to surf. They started the Palos Verdes Surfing Club. They're the founding members of the San Onofre Surfing Club. And when we go back in time, Fenton and Mo started surfing in 1937. So did my father, Warren Miller. They went on and they've continued to surf. I know that Fenton and Mo surfed into their 90s. So it gives you a sign that surfing is a good life. I just want to point out, Fenton's here today, and he would never have known he would be a cover boy at 95 years old. Okay. Unfortunately, last Monday we lost Mo, and I knew that was going to happen. I just want us to take a moment and just think that those Thule and Leroy and Mo and many more that I can't forget right now, they're part of the big universe. They're part of the wind and the sun and the waves today. And I know that they're here with us to be among us all these great surfers. They wouldn't miss this. I also want to bring it back here for a moment, because I don't know you know this or not, but Hermosa had a first gang and a clubhouse at 22nd Street. And a lot of you have alluded to that wonderful Shangri-La that it must have been. I was too young to have gotten a chance to see the shack. But Bob Bergstrom, Stu Linder, John Beecher Anderson, that's our first gang. You know, they did it right. These guys, they took these boards, they surfed out here, and they somewhere along the way, Stu and Bob had time to build a catamaran in the backyard, and they had that catamaran out there for windy afternoons when the surf would go down. They'd pull out of there. But the great thing that I heard is that those boards they made, the Henry Fords and these guys out here, they would hand them over to them if they were respectful and they would kind of do the right thing. They would hand their only board over to them to go out and surf at 22nd Street. So it was like this one generation teaching another how to respect the ocean, how to participate. And you know, my only regret was I a girl. Those boards were too big. You couldn't pick them up off the ground, much less paddle them. And unfortunately, I was young enough when I started surfing, Bing and Jacobs were on board. And I wanted my father, Warren Miller, he brought our family here when I was 4. So I don't really have much memory of anything before Hermosa Beach. Unfortunately, this is my childhood home. It will always be. And those chances to be a daughter of a surfer is probably one of the greatest things I was ever given. I mean, to know the ocean, to be taught to swim when I was body surfing. One of my first memories, paddling out at San Onofre with him as my, on the front of a board and thrown up on his shoulders and surfed in at 4 years old on the shoulders of someone in a wave is probably the greatest thing that is, all of you know that are surfers, but when you're 4, you're like, wow, this is going to be a cool life. And my dad went on to make films of a lot of things, but one of the first things that he did was in 1959, he made a movie about Hawaiian surf riders. And that movie featured Waikiki. The only beach, or the only hotel there was the Royal Hawaiian. The Royal Hawaiian and men in black socks trying to learn the hula. That's my first memories of Hawaii. I know that a lot of you got to take those trips. And let me think. Oh, Stu Linder, unfortunately, is not with us as well. And Bob and Stu, besides being sailors and boat builders, they went on. And Stu ended up sailing off to the Transpac. I think he sailed across the Pacific 3 or 4 times in the Transpac, and came back, started making movies, and he won an Academy Award for the editing of the movie Grand Prix. And what I have noticed is not about surfing alone, but it built men and women that went out into the world and accomplished great things. And just my notes I don't have, but I just want to introduce a phrase. We've talked about the Surf City. We've talked about the birthplace. But one thing Hermosa is, it's the home. And it's the home that we all of us, I think, whether we, mostly outdoors was our home. With the beaches, every street, each of you mentioned, we know them. These sands are ours. This is where we come home to. And when we're here, we're a family and we're a community. And I just really appreciate all these men and that put the beach in Hermosa and keeps it there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Chris!
Thank you, Chris Miller. Whilst he's doing that, and we're talking about some of the members that we've lost, Paul Matthews recently has taken a turn for the worse, and he's in special care right now, so maybe a prayer for him tonight.
This is that plaque that's going to go on the pier, and each of the inductees and their families are going to get one. And we're going to start with Beecher. Beecher Anderson. And Bob Bergstrom. Is Kathy Linder here? I know she was going to try to make it. Oh, good. This is Stu's wife, you guys. Thank you. And on behalf of the Miney family, his great-granddaughter, Finn, is going to pick this up on his behalf. Oh, and someone I know very well, Warren Miller. And I just want to take a moment out and acknowledge the city of Hermosa Beach and Diane Strickfaden. It's been 10 years that the Pioneers, we've been on hiatus, but we're back. And I just to give you a little point, Diane is a surfer, so that's going to help us a lot, okay? And this is my honor on behalf of everyone, and the original member of the Palos Verdes Surfing Club, Fenton.
Fenton, yeah, Fenton!
95!
Biggest wave of fall. Believe it.
While we're getting these photos here, all the former inductees.
Smile, you're in the background of everybody's shot.
We're not quite done yet, folks, so you get some photos here, then we've got a couple of quick announcements. We're going to wrap this up now. We want to thank you all for showing up today. This has been another great event. We hope to see you next year. And on behalf of the original Surf City, goodbye and have a good time today. And the Plaza Spider Fest is a unique surf exposition. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you!
All the guys up here, please. All the inductees.